Hey Alice, how are you?
Good. How'd your date go?
Not good. He's not who I thought he was.
Oh, but he seemed so promising in his profile.
I know, but in person he was I don't even want to think about it.
What? Was he another mama's boy like your ex?
No, thank God. That woman was insufferable. She judged every little thing.
Right. Is that why you broke up with him?
No, I didn't like the way he made the bed. I mean, I have standards, obviously.
Right. So what's wrong with this new guy? Is he broke? Is
No,
he a narcissist?
no,
Convicted felon?
worse.
Oh God, is he short?
No, God, no. But it's almost as bad.
Michaela, you're scaring me. What is it?
Okay. Remember that time your ex boyfriend sharded his pants in Mexico?
Oh, yeah. How can I forget?
Okay, this guy, it's like he sharts from his mouth.
What is that? Like a number five?
No, I mean, it's like he's a verbal sharter.
Oh no. Oh, you're not saying he's a.
Yes, he's a mansplainer.
Oh, you poor thing.
I know, it's awful.
The worst.
I feel sick just thinking about it.
Yeah. So, did you ghost him?
No, we're gonna go out tonight.
What? Why?
Well, he's 6'4" and his mother's dead, so I'm gonna try to make it work. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Michaela Up Close, a podcast where I overshare about my personal life and have unfiltered chats with comedians, friends, and experts on all kinds of juicy topics, usually related to relationships and dating, but often I will just complain about men. And that's what I'm going to do a lot of today. I'm also going to be chatting with lifestyle and dating coach Dave Perrotta. But first, I wanted to give you a quick update on my life, what's been happening here. So, at the time of this recording, the US election results have just come out. That has been obviously on the news a lot lately. And here in Canada, we're always talking about how low US politicians will stoop, especially during campaign season. We're kind of appalled. And I think Americans are appalled by it too. And I got to say, though, that Canadian politicians will stoop pretty low as well. For example, yesterday, I was walking downtown and I saw Jagmeet Singh walking by. Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP. And my first thought was, hey, that's the guy from TikTok. I kid you not, just the night before, I had stumbled upon Jagmeet Singh's TikTok profile. And call me old fashioned, but I don't think politicians should be campaigning on a platform that's like 90% teenage girls dancing and 10% Jason Derulo. I don't know. I don't think that's a good place to campaign. Call me crazy. But I will say that I did stumble on a couple of stumble upon. Okay, I was in deep. I was into Jagmeet's TikToks pretty deep. He hooked me. But yeah, I found a couple of them of him cruising on a scooter. And I mean, if you think Justin Trudeau is sexy, just watch Jagmeet work in a scooter. I mean, he has my vote. No, just kidding. I would never vote for the NDP, but I did follow him on TikTok. So that's something. I mean, if politics doesn't work out, he can always be an influencer. Yeah, but as for my personal kind of romantic life, have you guys ever liked someone so much that it scares you? Like you get overwhelmed and you're like, I'm just feeling too much and you can't stop thinking about them. So I have been feeling this way this week about a show. I found this new show. It's a weekly release show. So, oh my God, I have to wait for it to come out every week. And the anticipation just kills me. I get like separation anxiety. I can't stop thinking about it. And it's this show called The Undoing, starring Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant. And it's not the kind of show I would normally be into because it's like a psychological thriller mystery, kind of like Gone Girl, but it's a show. And I don't normally like those shows because you have to get so emotionally involved, you know, and I don't want to get like too emotionally involved with a show. But this one, it just kind of came out of nowhere. Wasn't looking for a new show to watch. Like that's always how it happens, right? When you're not looking. And I saw the trailer and Nicole Kidman looked so beautiful. The way they styled her, she's like a witchy fairy, the way she dresses, but posh. You know, she's like Tinkerbell if Tinkerbell were a middle-aged, extremely wealthy wasp. And I'm going to be honest, one of the reasons I clicked on it was because I wanted to see if Nicole Kidman could move her face. Which isn't, honestly, it's not a criticism of Nicole Kidman because I think she looks amazing. And let's face it, you can't be 53 and completely wrinkle-free without a generous amount of Botox and other stuff. So basically what I'm saying is the most exciting things that have happened to me all week are seeing Jagmeet sing on a scooter and seeing Nicole Kidman not move her face for an hour. But one interesting thing that happened was I go to this co-work space a couple times a week where I rent a desk to just work on my own. And there was this cute guy there. And he seemed cute because we have to wear masks when we're walking around. But yeah, he seemed cute and we were walking past each other. And he started slowing down as he got closer to me. And I was like, oh my goodness, he's going to chat me up. And then I realized, oh no, he's just trying to maintain social distance. It's like, girl, he's not trying to flirt with you. He just doesn't want to get within 6 feet of you. So that's where my dating life is at right now. But that's okay. That is okay because it means that I don't have to deal with the annoying things men do, such as mansplaining. So mansplaining is like a very popular term right now. It's something a lot of people like to make fun of. Basically, it's when a man explains something to a woman in a condescending way, or I guess to anyone. He explains it in a very like, you're stupid kind of way. Like, I know everything and I am informing you. And I also feel like when men give unsolicited advice, that also falls under the category of mansplaining. And the other day, a male friend of mine was giving me advice in a mansplaining way. And I was like, dude, stop giving me unsolicited advice. You're like a cat trying to give me a dead bird. It's like, nobody wants that. And yet you're so proud. You're like, oh, look at this magnificent gift I'm bestowing upon you. And everyone's just like, ew, no, thank you. And then he got all mad. He was like, you just don't want my advice because I'm a man. If I were a woman, you'd take my advice. Like if I was one of your girlfriends. I'm like, my girlfriends don't give unsolicited advice. They just don't. And also, I do take advice from men who are qualified. You know, my gynecologist, lawyer, the hot barista at Starbucks. You know, like I will take advice if it makes sense. What really annoys me is those guys who listen to one podcast on how to start an online business and then they try to give me advice. Because I've had an online business for 7 years. And yeah, I'm like, why would I take advice from you? You have a Tumblr blog with no readers. And you think I'm going to take your advice? Like, what's next? Should I hit up my 10-year-old niece for investment tips? Should I ask career advice of a homeless guy? Should I get financial tips from an astrologer? Okay, that I actually would do. I do that. So, but anyways, my point is that I have actually never had that happen with a woman. Like over the years since I've had my online business, I have had many men who know nothing about an online business, running an online business besides like a free e-course they took or a podcast they've listened to. And they try to give me advice and it's just never happened with a woman. Okay, so another thing that is super annoying that men do, and like anyone can do this, anyone can do these things, but I'm just picking on men today. But negging. So negging is when a man kind of wraps up a insult within a compliment to try to get a woman's attention. And it's kind of all about making the woman want your validation, like lowering her self-esteem. So she wants your validation. And the interesting thing is that I was doing some research on negging and I realized that it's really easy to do it unintentionally, but a lot of pickup artists will do it intentionally. But even like your parents, I know for me, like having an Asian dad, I feel like I was probably nagged a lot as a kid, but that wasn't his intention. You know, it's just like, oh, you know, you gotta be, that's better than last time, but it's not as good as your older brother sort of thing. Like that's an example of a nag that's unintentional. But other examples that pickup artists might use are like, oh, that's so great that you quit smoking. Too bad you have all those wrinkles already. Or you did so great on your report. Who helped you? That's obviously one for like high schoolers or people in college, which honestly, it's probably like a lot of younger men that are using these ridiculous tactics. But I was actually nagged not too long ago. I think it was unintentional, hopefully. It was in the summer, and I had met up with a bunch of comedian friends outside on a patio. And when I got there, I was wearing a crop top and biker shorts. And one of the male comedians like looked me up and down, and he's like, "Did you bike here?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, your outfit's a bit young." Oh my God. Yeah, that is an example of something not to say to a woman. But you know what? It didn't really bother me. It wasn't a big deal. I mean, besides my eyes turning red and me cursing him and his progeny for all of time, it didn't bother me. Yeah, I was enraged. And it was weird because I looked at him and, you know, he's in his late 20s. And I'm like, dude, you're wearing a Rick and Morty t-shirt. And you're saying I'm dressed too young? Like, what the hell? I feel like this is a double standard. And the thing about this example is that it just really encapsulates so many things that annoy women, or that like are just the worst things to say to a woman. Okay, for one, it was a neg, it was an insult. And I guess he didn't really compliment me, so maybe it wasn't a neg, it was just an insult. And then the other thing is he was basically telling a woman how she should dress, implying how I should dress, and then implying that a woman is old in any way. That is a suicide mission. If you want to die, go ahead and tell a woman she's old. If you want that woman to hate you for the rest of her life, do it. Tell her she's looking older. Imply that she's dressing too young. Be my guest. Yeah. So the thing about telling a woman how she should dress, I think this happens in really subtle ways, just like with little comments like the one I just gave as an example. But it happens in larger institutions and, of course, in religions. You all know, if you've been listening to the podcast, that I used to be Mormon. And that was a big thing. The church is run by men. It's men in the highest positions of authority. Men are the prophets. They are the mouthpiece of God. And so they are the ones saying, like, this is what's modest for women. And in the case of Mormons, we had to cover our knees and our shoulders and, don't show any cleavage. And I once went on a date with this guy who was very devoutly Mormon. Like, I was a Mormon convert, so I was still kind of new to the religion, still learning things. And he was someone who was like letter of the law, like 6th generation Mormon. So we went hiking together. I was wearing knee-length shorts and a cotton shirt it was one of those shirts with like a slit in the front. So it was kind of like a very narrow V-neck, and then a tank top underneath. So you couldn't see anything. You couldn't see my cleavage, first of all, because I don't have any. And also it just like was not a revealing shirt. But afterwards, he sent me an email saying, what you were wearing was very revealing, and I just want you to know that you don't need to dress like that to get a man's attention. I was like, you mean the way to a man's heart isn't by showing your collarbone? Golly. In fairness, his actions didn't reflect the church's teachings per se, because he did get in trouble for saying that to me, because I shared it with some other people in church and they're like, oh, no, that's not right. He shouldn't have done that. And he actually like got called into the bishop's office. He got a talking to. And for some reason, that made me feel so good. There's just something about like him reprimanding me and then getting reprimanded himself for doing that. It was just like this big cycle of shame and guilt. I'm not into that whole shame fetish, but now I can see why that's a thing for people. I can see where it comes from. It's all those Catholics and those Mormons that are so suppressed. Yes. So the final annoying thing that men do that I touched on was the implying that a woman's old, commenting on her age in a negative way. I mean, of course, nowadays people are trying to combat that sort of thinking, and people are like, oh, aging's beautiful. Women are like fine wine. But I mean, there's so much pressure on women to look young that telling a woman she's old is like in a negative way is basically like the worst thing you can say to her besides calling her the C word. It's one of the worst things. And I always think of the roast of Sarah Silverman. So there was this big controversy. It was actually a while ago now. I think it was 2013, where Sarah Silverman was on Comedy Central for a roast, and Jonah Hill made fun of her age. He said Sarah Silverman was hot for someone her age. And she was 42 at the time. She looked amazing. She still looks amazing. And she's super youthful in general. Like, she's just got like a really fun, youthful vibe. And, you know, afterwards she said that that really did hurt. And one quote from her is, "I don't want to be trite, but it is really different for women. Even in the brightest of pop culture, as soon as you're at an age when you have opinions and you're outspoken and you know who you are, you're very much encouraged to crawl under a rock and be embarrassed by any wrinkle or by still being alive." I think, she just said it so well. That said, I can see how guys might not realize how big a deal it is. I know when I was younger, in my early 20s, and I was married at the time, I made the mistake of implying that my mother-in-law was old. I can't remember what I said, but I was just kind of joking around about how old she was. Clearly it wasn't funny because she got really upset. And I was like, what's the big deal? Like, she has gray hair. She's not trying to hide it. She's a grandma. We all know she's old. She knows it. But now I understand. Now I get it. Just because of society, because of what's implied by, you know, a woman getting old is that she's lost a lot. Whereas when a man gets old, it's like he's gained a lot. He's gained all this wisdom, and even having gray hairs can be debonair. Anyways, earlier this week, I chatted with lifestyle and dating coach Dave Perrotta. We had a super interesting chat. He is a best-selling author of the book Conversation Casanova. And he is a YouTuber with over 50,000 subscribers. So he gives me his point of view on negging and these dynamics between men and women. And he also shares how he went from being like a player, going out every night, to now being in a very serious relationship with a woman for the last 2 years. So here's that chat. So I'm curious, actually, how did you go from being like single, living it up, to now being in like a pretty long-term relationship?
Yeah, so it's been like an interesting transition because obviously like doing the whole single guy thing, you're out there like living the bachelor lifestyle, just traveling around, just kind of doing whatever. And when you get into a relationship, that obviously changes a bit, right? Like sort of your priorities when you're traveling changes a bit, and sort of the overall lifestyle changes a bit too, right? But for me, what's been really good is having sort of a better lifestyle balance. I think before, my lifestyle was a little bit too focused on like partying and drinking and trying to pick up girls, right? But now it's like I can focus more on like business and health and different things like that, which, you know, have played a big part of my happiness, while also like there's always a sacrifice there, right? When you get into a relationship, like especially when you get so used to single life for years, like there's a part of that, you know, that's a lot of fun. But, you know, there's pros and cons to everything. And I've definitely had a lot of fulfillment from being in a relationship as well.
What were the things that you were kind of done with specifically that you're like, I don't want to live like this anymore?
I mean, I think part of it is that like after you date so many girls, it's like, like, it's like, all right, I've done this whole first date thing so many times, and like I've had fun, whatever, taking girls home from the bar, the club. It's a good time and everything. But at some point I think I just started getting sick of sort of like the like the meet and greet of dating, right? Like, you know, hanging out with a girl, realizing like, all right, she's got some red flags. Don't really want to hang out with her anymore. All right, let's move on to the next one. It's sort of like this never ending cycle of like trying to find a quality girl and all these different things that kind of go along with that. Like, is there chemistry, red flags, all these different things, as well as like traveling around constantly. It was all just kind of getting a little bit ridiculous. And, kind of like this has allowed me to sort of settle in a lot of ways. Like I said, kind of get that balance back.
I totally get that because I'm someone who's traveled a lot as well. Like I spent most of my late 20s and early 30s just like moving around and traveling. And in some ways it was great. It really accelerates your growth, but it does like set you back in a lot of ways because you have to rebuild all the time.
Yeah. And I think, you know, maybe the interesting thing for me is that I've always had a lot of like cool single guy friends who are out there, not just, you know, doing really well with dating, but also doing really well with business. So that kind of kept me on track, even, you know, when I was single, because I always had those motivating factors. Uh, but, but yeah, the good thing now is that I also have like a bunch of friends who are in relationships. I'm able to sort of like manage that, you know, hang out with the single friends, you know, make sure I don't lose those relationships, but also hang out, you know, sort of develop the relationships with my friends who have girlfriends, you know, down here in Mexico City, who also, you know, into business stuff and everything like that. So it's a good, you know, that's a good balance too.
Mm-hmm. So going back to like your lifestyle before, totally get the thing about the first date again and again, or just like the first couple of dates, it's just the same thing over and over. It's really frustrating. I don't know. What about one night stands? Like that aspect, did that get old?
You know, like I definitely, you know, definitely had some enjoyment from one night stands. And there's always like sort of like a fun rush of like taking a girl home for the first night, whether it be from a date or from the club or wherever, and just kind of seeing what was up, you know, and experiencing something new, and that was fun. You know, I feel like that's something that would always kind of be fun, but I get parts of that do get a little bit old too, like, you know, like even right after sort of the deed is done, there's a certain amount of times or a certain portion of the time where you're just like, all right, I want this girl to leave almost immediately. And you realize that as cool as maybe you thought she was, like it was sort of a facade because you just wanted to sleep with her. And once you've already done that, it's like, all right, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? and I think that was part of it too, just being like, what am I doing? Why am I like, when does sort of this cycle end here? Right.
Yeah. And because it's
And
such
then,
a
well,
go
I
ahead.
was going to say like, there's also that like, sometimes I'm out to like 6, 7, even 8 a.m. in random countries just doing this whole thing. And like, not only does that, and as I got older, that started messing up me, not just for like the next day, but like for days I'd be like trying to catch back up on sleep. Cause if you're going home at 8 a.m., you're not sleeping, you're not getting a good night's sleep from that, right? It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking of? There's this you know the show How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
You know Barney's character?
Yeah, of course.
So he's like a super player, not staying out so late like you, but you know, he's just like always dating different women, always trying to sleep with women. And then so when he gets into a relationship with Robin, he sometimes, you know, will like get up in the middle of the night and try to sneak out. And she's like, Barney, it's okay. This isn't a one night stand. Go back to bed. I'm just picturing you like that.
Yeah. I'm actually a big fan of that show. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always, Barney always cracked me up.
So yeah, like what was that like when you finally got into a relationship? Were there some things that were really hard to adjust to?
I mean, there's parts of it that were pretty difficult. And the girl, you know, the girl I'm dating now, you know, my girlfriend, we sort of like were casually dating for a couple of years while I was traveling around and doing different things, but it was never like sort of an exclusive thing.
Women
Um,
love that, by the way, casually dating for 2 years.
yeah. No, like she wanted it. And I was always like, well, like I'm still going to be savage a little bit here. So like, like I wasn't quite ready to just kind of, to kind of stop. Right. And I think like towards the end of it, I was like, all right, like after 2 years in, I was like, all right, like let's see if we're either gonna try to make this work or just kind of, give up. And like we actually had like a little bit of falling out like towards the end of the 2 years before we decided to just kind of like start fresh and try again. And yeah, it's really started from that from the 2 year point. But the original question was like, what was it again? Was it like what lessons I've
No, what
learned
was
from it,
that?
or
What was
sorry.
that like adjusting? Like, were there certain things that were difficult in the relationship?
Yeah, I mean, well, moving in with her and living with her, we started living together in Australia. That was a whole interesting thing, and a lot of benefits to living with the girl for my side of things, right? Because I'm the guy who doesn't really like to cook. Like I don't love cleaning. Of course, like I help out with that, but she does like she's an amazing cook, and she helps me, in those areas. Because of her, like I'm way healthier just because of the healthy meals that she makes, which really makes things a lot easier for me. um
Mm.
the one interesting thing is trying to like balance that. Living with a girl is different, right? Because you need to make sure that you're able to manage like still getting personal space, not getting on each other's nerves, and sort of keeping making sure you're keeping the sexual chemistry going and everything, and not just becoming roommates, but making sure the relationship is thriving. So there's a lot of different things that kind of go into it.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos with your girlfriend. She's very beautiful, and you're so lucky that she also cooks. That's
I
rare
mean, yeah,
nowadays.
yeah, that's a big thing for me. And I tell guys all the time, like, yo, you have to have your sort of like your deal breakers and your non-negotiables when you're trying to date girls. Like a lot of guys would just try to just date the first pretty girl that comes into their life that likes them a little bit. And I'm always like I just made a video the other day, like why you should not get a girlfriend. And basically it's, making sure guys like do it making sure you're going through the right steps and experiencing life enough before you get a girlfriend, and then also like making sure she's actually the right fit for you, and you're choosing her out of abundance versus out of scarcity, right? And for me, it's really important that a girl, works out, she cooks, she's open-minded, all those types of things. That those are all big keys for me.
Yeah, it sounds like she fits really well into your lifestyle. Like you complement each other's lifestyles.
Yeah, well, another big thing with her too is that, like, and I talk about this a lot too. Like she's kind of moldable, right? And for a girl to be moldable, like it sounds kind of weird to say, but it's a really good quality, because that means she's open, right? Like she's open to. Since I've been dating her, she's learned a little bit of online business. Like she makes like $1,000 a month teaching Spanish. Like I sort of like guided her how to do that. She's been doing it herself, and now she's like building out these like little plant structures and selling them. She's going to the gym every day. Like she basically, like, we sort of combined our habits together, and became a lot healthier of a lifestyle. And I picked up some things from her. She picked up some things from me, and it's been good.
That's really cool. She's moldable. It's an interesting way of putting it. Kind of like a
Yeah.
sex robot. There, you can like program them to do things too.
Yeah, I'm trying to like explain it in a way that doesn't sound like super like misogynistic or something, but like, but for I guess like for guys like me who are like doing the digital nomad thing, traveling around and stuff, like sort of like having the big time open mindedness is key, because you like any girl that we're dating, she's got to be open to changing up a lot of things in her lifestyle. Otherwise, it's just like not going to work, right?
Mm.
Like if a girl is completely set on just like working a corporate lifestyle and staying in the same city, like it's probably not going to work that well.
Hmm.
So that's why like being able to be moldable in these different areas is sort of like a big key.
That's very true. And that's something that I realized that I need to look for, because when I moved back to Ottawa, I was really trying hard to like date guys who worked for the government, like 9 to 5, who'd like never traveled. And it doesn't work.
Well, how are you going to relate to those dudes after after everything you've been through, right? It doesn't even make sense.
Hmm. Mind you, though, like now I am not traveling as much. Now I'm kind of settled here, but I am like a creative person, so I think, I that could change. I like to change my life up. So who knows? But going back to your relationship, we're going to talk a lot about that. Um, how has it been during lockdown?
Yeah, it's been cool. I mean, I was telling you before, like we're living in Mexico, so it's not like the lockdown isn't. I almost don't even really think about it anymore, like because it's not really locked down. Like we have like a speakeasy gym that we go to. We don't have to wear masks there. We go work out there a few times a week. Like we can go eat at restaurants. Like I play football once a week with a bunch of my friends.
Was
It
there a
doesn't
point where
like
like like a month or so where you were locked down?
Yeah, there was like a month or two, and that was it was all right because it's not like we were around each other all the time. Another good thing, she's a doctor, right? So she works like 3 nights. She only works the night shifts, and she works 3 nights a week. So like she'll work going like 8 p.m. come out like 8 a.m. So that'd be kind of like time for like my me time and like her sort of like personal space, right? So like sort of us getting our own personal space is kind of like ingrained because of her work schedule, which makes it a bit easier,
Can
given
I
some time
just
apart
say, okay,
naturally.
what kind of doctor is she?
She's a neonatologist. I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, but basically, it's a doctor that takes care of like newborn babies that are sick and in the ICU.
Oh my gosh, you hit the jackpot. Like, where did you find this woman? Honestly, no, I feel kind of resentful. Not truly, but like when I hear men's stories like yours, it honestly makes me feel resentful because it's like I meet all these amazing women in their 30s, including myself, who've done kind of the thing of being single, being happy single, and they've accomplished all these things, and they're like, okay, I'm ready to meet someone, and crickets, like they just have such a hard time. And then there's so many guys like you who were like players, just living it up, and suddenly they just switch and like, actually, I do want a relationship now, and the perfect woman shows up. And I'm just like, what? Why? It's so unfair.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of crazy how it works. Funny, we actually met through Tinder, like, but this is like back in the day, right? Like 4 years ago. But yeah, no,
When Tinder wasn't completely savage.
yeah, no, exactly.
Was there something about her specifically that compared to the other women you dated that made you want to not settle down but be in a more serious relationship?
Well, I think there's certain girls that you're just gonna have more chemistry with than others, and you meet a certain amount. Like for me, like I met a certain amount of those girls like throughout my life, or like girls that I've noticeably was like, all right, I have way more chemistry with this girl than normal, and for the rest of the girls, maybe this girl's cool to hang out with, but I'm not actually interested in anything more. But with those girls, where like the chemistry is really big, then that kind of changes the game, right? And then from there, it kind of comes down to like, what qualities does she have? Is this actually like a long-term potential? And for me, like I said, it took 2 years for me to actually like kind of commit to it because I was so like sort of against commitment, just doing my thing, just being ridiculous around the world with my boys. It was just absolutely being ridiculous. So it was really it took some like self-reflection and like, all right, is this sort of the time for me? Like, should I actually give this a shot? What am I going to do here? Or should I just do this for like another 5 or 10 years? Like, I got to make some type of a decision. And and it just kind of came down to like, all right, like let me give this a shot here. Let's see if there can actually be something worthwhile with this girl if I actually commit to it and see what happens. And yeah, it's worked out so far.
And how old are you?
I actually just turned 30 a couple days ago.
Okay. So yeah, that is like actually the ideal age to, I think, start a real relationship. Or if you're going to settle down a little bit after living a crazy life and dating a lot, that's a good age because I always find like if someone hasn't done that by 30, there is like definite repercussions. Like they're kind of not dateable. It's like more so a
Yeah, I
sign
mean,
that they don't really want it or that they can't.
yeah, don't get me wrong. I got a lot of friends in their mid to late 30s who are still out there doing it, right? And like there's definitely, like, I'm not gonna lie, like I see the draw in that because as a guy coming into your 30s, like you're still kind of like you're entering your prime because a lot of my friends, like everyone, like as you get 30 and beyond, like you're making more money than you ever have. Like you're sort of
Mm.
getting these lifestyle aspects down in ways you never have before. And like you're a catch in ways where like in my early 20s, like sure I had some potential and stuff, but it was unrealized and I didn't really like I knew I wanted to do big things. Wasn't really sure where I was going. But now, as you get to your 30s, actually, a lot of those things sort of coming to fruition. It's like, oh shit, like this is a high quality dude. So it's, there's definitely, I can see it going both ways, right? I can see it, being positive, competent to relationship, but also see it being like, all right, like, I'm really starting to roll here. Why not see where this goes? So yeah.
Yeah, it would still be maybe great for you, but not for the women that you encounter.
No, of course. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I have read your book, Conversation Casanova, How to Effortlessly Start Conversations and Flirt Like Pros. So I read it and it's a great book. I honestly think that it's, I read a lot of this kind of stuff and it has a lot of very practical advice. I think it's a good mix of being kind of conversational and easy to read and actually having very practical advice on how to make conversation and flirt in a way that's not totally disgusting. And I don't know if you remember, but a few months ago, well, several months ago now, I was dating someone who'd read your book.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yes. He was like scrolling through his books on his iPad, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know the guy who wrote that book. And I don't think he read it very carefully though, because he was not applying the advice. Like he wasn't a very good listener. He didn't ask me a lot about myself.
Oh man, yeah. He definitely didn't apply it too well then.
No. So what do you think are some of the biggest mistakes guys make when talking to women?
Well, I think a big thing a lot of guys have trouble with is just like overall self-awareness, right? Like they're not really aware in the conversation. Like they're not able to like pick up on what the girl is trying to say, that they're more just trying to talk about themselves, not realizing how they're coming across. Like this dude over here not listening to anything you're saying and just maybe trying to go on and on about himself or something. Like he's not listening to you. And even if he does read a book like my book or something, a lot of times they actually don't take the advice because they let their egos get in the way. And they think, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool, but like I have my way to do it. I think I can make this work. And then they end up kind of screwing things up, right? But yeah, a big part of it is not listening and just going on and on about yourself and just kind of not having any real game plan on how to move forward and have success.
That's true. This guy had a huge ego. Huge. And he was like, yeah, like it was a good book, but I think I already knew a lot of it. I'm like, no, you didn't.
No, exactly. Here's a problem. Like a lot of these guys, it's funny. Like you hear guys, oh yeah, like I know this. Like it's the basic stuff. It's like, bro, like you don't get it, man. Like if you don't have the fundamentals down, like you're not gonna have success. And the fundamentals aren't a thing that you can just kind of like read and say, oh, like I know it. Like no, you have to like apply it. Otherwise, you don't know it. You know what I mean? And that's why a lot of these guys don't have success. Like they think there's like some magic pill or magic trick or like, oh yeah, like I got that stuff down. Like let me get the crazy techniques. It's like, bro, like you don't really need any crazy techniques here, man. Like get the fundamentals down and you're gonna be in good shape. But a lot of guys just don't want to do that.
It's so true. It's so true. And this is stuff, honestly, like, even though some people might think it's the basics, a lot of people never, ever learn it. They go through their whole life, they don't recognize these things, like just how to even take a conversation to a little bit of a deeper level. Getting past that, like, small talk and asking the same questions. I think that's a big thing with a lot of guys who come for dating coaching, is they really don't know how to get to that level where you can create a connection and a spark, because it's all like, oh, well, like talking about work. What did you do this weekend? So like, what would your top advice be for getting to that level where you're creating a spark?
Yeah, no, a lot of guys don't know how to have just like they just don't have like those basic conversational skills. So one thing I tell guys is like, listen, man, you got to make it real. And when I talk about making it real, I'm basically talking about like, all right, you need to like take her aside and actually have like a real connection. So if you're talking to her at the club or something, like a lot of times I'd be, all right, bro, you got to make it real. So like, instead of just talking to her on the dance floor, like see if she wants to go, like lead her towards like the outdoor lounge or something, or like by the bar where it's a little bit more quiet and like make it real. And when I say that, I'm talking about, asking her open-ended questions about her life and diving a little bit deeper, finding out like what she's passionate about, like what she likes about, like, let's say you're in New York City, like what she likes about New York City, what brought her there, like what does she love to do for fun over there, and just kind of like diving deep into like, who she is for a little bit, and kind of getting the sense of like, all right, are we actually like a good fit? And is the girl I actually want to keep talking to, or is there pretty much nothing there, and it's either going to be like sort of a quick and shallow hookup, or you're just going to go talk to somebody else and see if you can find that connection, depending on what you're trying to do for that, like specific within that interaction, within that night or whatever. Right.
Yeah. And I think the open-ended questions that you give in the book and the types of questions are really good, because people know like, oh, ask an open-ended question, but then they're kind of like, they go blank.
Well, then you have to like follow up with it too. Like you don't want to just ask like 10 open-ended questions in a row, like, oh, like, and just have them not be related. Like you want to, like, if you ask her what she likes about New York City or like why she came there, then maybe she says, she just loves big cities and lots of people. Oh, like I love big cities too. That's what drew me to so many opportunities here. Like why do you love these big cities? Like what is it about for you, right? And just kind of like figuring out ways to dive deeper based on like within each individual topic.
Like getting more curious, looking for those like jump off points within what they say.
Yeah, instead of just kind of listening to her talk and just trying to like brag about something.
Yeah. Um, so I know you're not a pickup artist, but something that's really big among pickup artists is negging. And that's something I talked about earlier in the podcast. So what are your thoughts on negging? Does it work?
It's sort of just like, it just makes you look really, really weird, right? And it just doesn't come across as genuine. And like, it's funny because I'll do calls with guys to get them into some of my programs and stuff, and they'd be like, yeah, man, like I know a little bit about how to talk to girls. Like I know how to do like negging and stuff. I'm like, bro, like, that's not actually how to talk to girls. Like you go up and give her a backhanded compliment. Like it comes across as ingenuine. It comes across as, I think it's kind of a weak strategy. And what I try to tell guys instead is, or show them how to do, is sort of like turn the dial up on themselves and like sort of become better versions of themselves, and let their own personality kind of shine through, versus like trying to be some weird dude who's just like giving these girls backhanded compliments. I just don't think it works that well, for one, and then like it's not like a sustainable strategy for dating, number two.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in some ways it works in that, the girl does kind of want your approval. I mean, depending on the girl, some girls will just be like, ew, and walk away. But I know for me, it has, like, I've thought about it afterwards and I've been like, oh, that person negged me. Like, and that actually is what kind of messed with me a little bit. And it did kind of pull me in, but then later on, it made me like hate him. Like it truly backfires later.
Yeah, well, there's like an art to teasing, right? And like I like to tease girls, but I don't think of that as like negging. Like it's more of like sort of like a playful, like I'm being playful, I'm having fun and being self-amused with it, versus like trying to get some sort of reaction out of the girl by making her feel positive and negative at the same time or something, right?
What is the difference? Like, what's an example of teasing versus negging?
Well, a neg might be like, oh, like nice, like I like your hair. Is it real, or something like that, right? Because you're giving her a compliment on her hair and then saying, is it real? So it's actually like you're sort of taking it back. And then like a playful tease might be like oh, like you're from California, you're from California. Like I totally get that Valley Girl vibe from you, and saying it with like a smile and like sort of laughing as you do it, right? Like that's more of like like you're being fun with it. Like she knows you're not being serious when you call her like a valley girl.
Yeah.
That's just like one off the top of my head, but
Yeah. That's true. It is a fine line. I even think for myself when I was researching negging, I was like, oh my God, I've negged people.
no,
But
I
not,
think sometimes it's something that comes up in conversation from time to time, and you might not even realize you do it, but it's not. I don't think it's something you should intentionally go out there and try to do. And you know, my friends and I, we've had a lot of success with girls over the years, and we've never negging has never been like a technique that we've been like, bro, like I negged this girl so hard, it was amazing, she was so attractive. Like that never happened one time. So I think if you're like a cool, genuine dude, like live like on your shit, like living your like you know living your life and you know or on your grind, like you don't need to do stuff like that.
yeah, you're not like those guys in the book, The Game, where they're in their lair and they're just like coming up with
Yeah.
all these manipulation strategies.
Well, that was like the thing to do back in like the early 2000s, right? Like it was a lot of these sort of like nerdy dudes trying to like figure out a way to make their way in the dating game without being guys who made a lot of money or without being like sort of good at communication, all these different things, right? And what I try to show guys is like, all right, like let's see if we can just get good at communication and have like some good uh like just be a good dude and see how far that gets you versus like trying to do all these like crazy techniques and stuff. Like I've never been about that because it always
Mhm.
seems kind of complicated and weird to me too.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, that like the pickup artists, I think attract a certain type of clientele, like you said, like nerdy guys who they just want to get laid and they're just looking for any kind of tactics. So I'm curious, like what are your clientele like?
Yeah, so we recently I'm teamed up with this guy How to Beast. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Hmm.
But so we teamed up together. He's got like 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He crushes it. But he's been one of my best friends for a long time. And we decided to team up on a coaching program together. And at first it was just dating, but we recently shifted it to more of like a lifestyle thing where it's not just how to talk to girls, but also like, all right, how do you actually have like a high value lifestyle that you know is going to make you happy in different ways, right? And that might mean having like an online business. It might mean, you know, it means like getting your mindset in order, all these different types of things. So that kind of shifts a little bit, like sort of our clientele. You know, it's a lot of like guys in are between their early 20s and mid 30s who are really, you know, not just trying to get better with girls, but really, you know, get their mindset stuff handled, get a lot like they're not looking for these like weird techniques, right? I'll put it that way. Like it's a lot of like normal dudes who are just trying to like sort of find their way in life, you know, make more money, get higher quality girls consistently, you know, overcome approach anxiety, overcome a lot of their fears that have been built up over time. And a lot of these guys have dealt with some shit, right? Like a lot of these guys have dealt with some hard stuff. And then, you know, we kind of help them to overcome that.
Yeah, which reminds me, so your dad's a comedian, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's a stand-up comedian.
Which is that I think like that's a sign you probably should go into therapy if your if your dad was a comedian. All comedians should go into therapy. What was that like having a dad as a comedian as a dad?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. I used to take girls on like first dates to my dad's comedy shows, which was like a funny thing. like let's go watch my dad tell jokes. And this is when I was in like my late teens and early 20s. I would take girls there, and it actually like worked out pretty well. Like my dad would come over, say what's up, like go up on stage, do his thing. And it was just kind of like a really funny time. Seems like a weird day, but yeah, it worked out. But I think going to my dad's comedy shows when I was a kid, like he's the type of comic who messes with the crowd a lot and just kind of does a lot of stuff off the cuff. And that really actually, like I went to so many of his shows that I think it started playing into my personality and the way I would talk to girls as I started to get older. Like I was able to come up with like quick teases and like witty responses off the cuff because I had been to so many of his shows that I just kind of like internalized it without realizing it. I think that actually was a big piece of me getting good with girls and maybe progressing a lot faster than other guys were able to.
Ah, okay. You got your sense of humor from him and you were able to use it to flirt. Would you say that your dad was a womanizer?
My dad was definitely he was definitely pretty good with girls. I think that maybe when it came to dating, he didn't have as much like self-awareness that I do in terms of like being able to avoid certain traps and maybe getting caught up on certain girls and different things like that. Just, based on what he told me from, when he was growing up and stuff. But he's definitely a womanizer growing up, but I think he lacked like some of the perspective that I was able to kind of have, putting myself through the gauntlet and putting myself through a bunch of shit and learning as I went, and really trying hard to develop like that sort of that awareness that that I think that he didn't have, and which led to some big mistakes in his life because of that.
Mm, like big relationship mistakes?
Yeah, like relationship mistakes in terms of just whether it be getting with the wrong girls, whether it be getting himself into bad situations, um, different things like that. Like I was able to avoid a lot of those traps, or at least notice them before like they got bad, and able to kind of step back and get out of them or fix the situation before it got bad. Whereas maybe he wasn't able to do that.
Yeah. Which I think like the lifestyle of a comedian lends itself to toxicity.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're out there, you're going out at almost every single night, and he's a big comedian in Rhode Island and Massachusetts and Boston and stuff. So like he would during non-corona times, he basically has a show every single night. Not only does that make it hard to, when they were separated to not to go out and like there's always girls to talk to, stuff like that. But then there's also like always food to be had, right? Which led to him,
Mm,
he ballooned up to like 300, 330 pounds. He's losing weight now. But it's really hard to make sure you're staying in shape and staying healthy when you have all these opportunities to like eat late night food and and just drink and all these different things.
yeah, absolutely. I was listening to like a comedian a podcast, and he was saying I forget who it was, but he was just saying how like he brings his own food now, and he tries to keep his life the same pretty much as when he's at home, because he's like, yeah, for a while I did the thing where you're just drinking, you're eating the food they give you at the clubs, and it's not good. Like you can't progress that way as much as you could, like you said in your life, how the lifestyle you were leading was great, but in some ways it kind of limited you from progressing, or it slowed you down. Yeah, I think it's the same. Like, and a lot of comedians who would have been really successful, like that's their downfall.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Mm.
true. Like you're really good at when you have all these temptations in your lifestyle. Like you have to learn how to have some self-discipline and build good habits so that you don't kind of get swept away by the tsunami of all the temptations.
Hmm. So, what is something we're gonna like pivot here? What's something that you think people misunderstand about you?
That people misunderstand about me.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure if there's like a lot of these people misunderstand about me, to be honest. Like I feel like on my videos and my book, I kind of put myself out there like pretty authentically in a way that's like, all right, like if you actually like read and watch my videos, you kind of get a picture of like the type of dude that I am. Maybe people who don't like, who maybe only watch a couple seconds or a couple minutes here and there and just make a snap judgment. Maybe again, like they'll be like, oh, like he's a pickup artist or something like that. I'm just like, no, like I'm not. I'm basically just like a normal dude who's just trying to like show other normal dudes how to like succeed in these different areas of their life without having like a big ego around it or trying to be like an asshole or something, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you seem like a pretty upfront guy. So we're gonna wrap things up with some rapid fire questions. Ready?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
What's one thing you would tell your 18-year-old self?
Don't go to college.
Oh, don't go to college. Why? Why is that?
I mean, I went into college like haphazardly thinking, oh, maybe I'm going to become an accountant or something. Like, seems like I was good at that in high school. Maybe that just makes sense. And spent a bunch of money on the degree when like a couple years into it, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to do it. And then of course, like I never actually ended up using my degree because I was just
Mm,
like, well, like towards the end of it, I started learning about online business. I was like, well, I'm just going to try to do something with that. And
yeah.
I think if I had started at 18, It's hard to say for sure, like looking back, because there's lessons you learn in college socially. But if I could tell myself at 18, like, bro, like don't spend money on college, go start traveling the world, connecting with people, and learning like copywriting, learning different online business skills. Like I would have gotten such a big head start over where, like rather than starting it at like 22 or 23, like I did, and success would have come a lot faster. I think a lot of people waste their time in college, not even knowing what they want to do.
I'm so glad you say that because I feel the exact same way. And I know that that's like, for a lot of people, that's like the worst thing you can say. Like education is first and whatever, but it's just not the path for everyone, especially if you're like an entrepreneur type, you're a creative type, and you just need to learn the skills you need to do that, to like make your own business, to start coaching, to write your book, and it's kind of like a waste to take all these courses and spend all this money on things you're never going to use. So if you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Great. Three people, that's hard. All right, so I would say definitely Tupac. Like he was always my favorite rapper, and I think he just had a lot to say, and he kind of inspired me a lot back in the day.
Mm.
Um, as far as the other two, probably like Tom Brady. I think that'd be pretty cool. I've always been a big Tom Brady guy. He's just crushing in like every area of his life. I'm a big Patriots fan too. I actually met him when I was like 12, when he was in his first year of the league.
Ooh.
Got his autograph and stuff. So yeah, I say Tupac, Tom Brady, and let's see, probably like Elon Musk would be an interesting guy to, yeah, like that would be like a whole interesting crew to get in with, and kind of like see how they're thinking about certain things, and yeah, I'm sure I'll learn a lot from those conversations.
Nice. Those are very masculine answers. My last several
Yeah, yeah.
my last guests have been women, so the answers are very different.
What was some of the guests that they've said?
Well, like, maybe their favorite author, like Ellen DeGeneres or Oprah, or, you know. What's one
So
of your secret skills or talents?
secret skills or talents. I feel like I'm pretty good at playing quarterback. Like I play like I organized like a football game here in Mexico City over the past like year. Like we've been playing and really revved up over the past couple months. But like I just enjoy going out playing quarterback and throwing the ball around, and the decision making that kind of goes along with that, and just having fun. I feel like my team usually wins. So I feel like pretty good at it. And also like I would say freestyle rapping too would be another one, or just kind of
What?
rapping in general.
What? No, that is a surprising one. You want to like,
Yeah, no, I do a lot of like raps in my videos now too, like where they won't just be freestyles. They'll be like sort of pre-scripted out, but like it'll be, if I'm talking about habits, like I'll make a rap about like something about the habits or something. We actually, me and my partner I work with the coaching, we actually put a music video together called "Never Catch Feelings," and it's a little bit cringy, I'm not gonna lie, but it's got a bunch of views on YouTube, and it's like a absolutely ridiculous video with us and like a bunch of Instagram girls just doing ridiculous shit.
girls in bikinis, right? I've
Yeah,
seen it. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's a very ridiculous video, but
Can you give a little rap sample?
all right. I mean, I remember last time you made me flirt up the top, so I guess I can. I guess I can freestyle off the top too. Um, so see if I can think of a quick. You want to give me a word, like podcast or something?
Sure, podcast.
Okay. All right. I'm out here with Michaela for a podcast interview, talking about the type of stuff that I'm living through. The information that I'm giving you is more than subliminal. It's really pivotal to changing up your life, both mentally and physical.
Nice.
There's a quick one.
Woo. Bravo.
Boom. There you go.
Awesome. I do. That's like our tradition. I put you on the spot.
Yeah. No, it's funny.
Okay, so what's the last show you binged?
I'm actually watching a show right now called The Boys. It's on Amazon Prime. Super good. It's like a superhero show, but not like the typical superhero show. It's like superheroes are kind of like the bad guys in this, and there's like the boys are like the guys trying to sort of like save the day, but they also have sort of their all their shit that they're dealing with too, and they're not the best of guys either. But it's a really interesting dynamic on like the whole superhero genre that I think is super cool.
Nice. Also a very masculine answer. Superheroes.
Yeah.
So if a zombie apocalypse were to break out right now, where you are, what is your like plan of action? What do you do in the moment?
Oh, I probably just go to somewhere that's as least populated as possible, like some like really rural part of Mexico, and just kind of like wait it out, and hopefully the zombies don't find me over there, and try to find some guns too.
Right. That's a must. And final question, what do you want your tombstone to say?
I don't know if I care what my tombstone has to say. I'm going to be dead. But if I had to choose, I'd probably say something like either life is too short to play it safe, or you know you always got to investigate before accepting what the majority believe to be true. And I think both of those, like the life's too short to play it safe. A lot of people are afraid to take risks. A lot of people live their whole life scared, uh, and they just end up being soft and never getting what they want. And then like the other one is a lot of people are, I feel like a lot of people just become like drones in society because they just like they just fall victim of like groupthink. And then whether it be with politics, whether it be with like anything, like people just, they need to learn. If you can think for yourself, then you're going to automatically be ahead of most people, because most people don't have any idea how to do that.
I like that. I like that. All right. Well, thanks so much for being on. It was a pleasure talking to you. That concludes another episode of Michaela Up Close. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked this episode, then please do give me a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe wherever you're listening. All right. I'll catch you in the next episode.